Brothers in Tech is a weekly podcast focused on personal and home technology, helping provide you, our fellow brothers and sisters in tech, with some information, assistance, and recommendations. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Brothers in Tech here on the Mesh.tv podcast network. My name is Alan Jackson, and to my right, my esteemed brother in tech, Brian Jackson, Dr. Brian Jackson. Brian, how you
wow. Ooh, you're really trying to kiss up today, aren't you?
You heard, there's a little controversy. There was some Twitter flame-ups about a certain journalist making a comment about a certain first lady, whether or not she should be allowed to use the doctor term. And so I'm not jumping into the debate there. I just want to say, Brian, I do acknowledge you. I mean, you did earn it. You are Dr. Brian Jackson, and I'm going to call you that.
Thank you, Alan. And I will take the doctor in air quotes for those who happen to be watching. A different kind of doctor, but at my job, I asked for that, but no, don't ask me to fix
Why
anything.
do I keep calling you with medical advice then? Why am I doing that? Why are you telling me what to do to take care of my body? I thought that was what you do.
Listen, I said to you, bourbon will fix everything, and right. I stand by that.
I follow that advice every single night. So
I stand by it. So
okay. Well, this is Brothers in Tech. Brian and I are actual brothers. We do get together, and as you can see by the title, we talk about technology every time we get together, really focusing on home and family, personal technology use. We talk a lot about different aspects of technology. We sometimes bring in some different recommendations or tips and tricks and using the technology to the best effect. Today, Brian, we do have a topic we're going to get to in a little bit after I think we do some housekeeping things and maybe a couple news items. But we are going to talk today about some features on your computing device. Namely, we're going to hone in mostly on the Mac and iOS or iPhone side, but some of these things are also readily available on other platforms.
Yep.
Some accessibility features that you, chances are pretty high you probably have not paid any attention to them because you may feel like that there's
not a need.
The phone or the computer is providing for people who may have impairments of any sort and need some special assistance or more accessible options. And they absolutely will provide those things for those people in need. And we're going to highlight some of the things that are really great in the accessibility options. But there's also some pretty cool things that may be helpful to you in your everyday life, whether you find yourself impaired in any way or having difficulty using the computer or not. So we're going to talk through that accessibility features and options category a little bit later on.
Yeah.
I summed it up, Brian. You brought this topic up, so I didn't want to steal your thunder here.
Well, I was going to say for those that are joining in, this is how things go on Brothers in Tech. Alan and I got together for a few minutes beforehand. We talked about, hey, how do we want to cover this thing? And then very clearly he said, well, do you want to, this is your topic. Do you want to present and kind of say what we're trying to do? Absolutely. And then we jump on and what happens? You steal every bit of my thunder. So I really have nothing to add now. So that was, thank you.
That was
great.
I promise when we actually get to the topic, I'm going to let you drive for a little bit.
No,
I just go into autopilot.
Okay. Well, you did mention that we have a few housekeeping things, and we do have at least one housekeeping thing that I'm not sure if you remember from last week, but you posed a question to me, which was, how do you remind yourself to turn your Apple Watch to a workout when you go down and work out?
Yes.
Right?
Yes. I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah.
I've been following your advice this past week, and with the bourbon, I don't remember the things you talked about last week. So,
well, you're welcome.
Yeah. So how is, again,
okay.
Let me just set up my problem.
You set it up.
And you tell me the solution. Yep. So I do use my Apple Watch for tracking activity. I have my rings, the whole, trying to close the rings thing. And I do have exercise routine I go and do, but I find myself going to my workouts app on my watch, choosing the workout I'm going to do, whether it's I'm walking, whether I'm rowing, whether I'm just doing an open goal of workout. And, but I always forget to start it. I'll pull it up and start it. I'll be halfway through a walk or I'll be halfway through a session and I'm like, I forgot to start the workout. So I
Yeah.
have to go and start it. And then I just kind of try to let it run for a couple extra minutes beyond when I finished to make up for the fact that I didn't turn it on right.
Yeah.
So what am I missing? I feel like this should
Okay.
be something automatic. What am I missing?
Well, so here's the trick. I think there's a couple of ways to approach that issue. One is that if so in your watch settings on your phone in the watch
Mhm.
app,
Yeah.
you want to double check and make sure that you in the workout menu that you do select the reminder, kind of the
Mhm.
reminder. Let's see, what is it worded as?
Start workout
Workouts.
reminder.
Start workout reminder. Was that selected already?
Yeah.
Okay. So if that's the case and you're not getting a reminder, it probably means you haven't waited long enough on the workout to do it. So, for example, if you were to do a workout, let's say you were to hop on your rowing machine. I think, Alan, you said you got a rowing machine, right?
Yeah.
So, if you were to hop on a rowing machine and start rowing, it should within probably 2 to 4 minutes, it should buzz at you and say, "Hey, looks like you're doing rowing. Do you want to record a workout?" The beauty of it is, and I find that I'm using this a lot lately on outdoor walks. So if I go walk my dog, of course, I don't think when I walk out the door, oh, let's put on there that I'm doing an outdoor walk. I go walk my dog. And if we're walking for usually it's about 12 minutes. If I've walked for 12 minutes, it will then chime at me and say, hey, by the way, it kind of looks like you're doing an outdoor walk. Do you want to record that? The beauty is if I say yes, it puts me at 12 minutes on the walk because it
Mhm.
recognizes that I'm looking back and it looks like you started walking back at this time. So the same
Okay.
thing will happen with the rowing if you're actually moving your arms enough to have it recognize that that's the case.
Well, that's a little bit my question, and that's
Yeah.
it hasn't been reminding me.
Okay.
Well, with the walking, if I walk for 25, 30 minutes, I'm probably not waiting 10 or 12 minutes to let it remind me. I'm probably still going in 5 minutes in, remembering I didn't start it, and I'll go and start it.
Well,
So
and
you're
there's
saying if
the
I had,
issue.
yeah,
Yep.
but
Yep.
you're saying if I had let it just go,
Yep.
it should note that I'm walking and it's going to pick
So
up from that.
so here's the thing. I think if I was in your situation and let's say you go downstairs to work out, you hop on the rowing machine and you start rowing. And let's say a minute in, you go, oh crap, I should have started it. With rowing, I would probably just wait another minute or so whenever it tells you, would you like to
Yeah.
record? Because it's going to go back and include that full workout because it remembers when you actually started moving your arms like that. The same thing would go with the walk. So the problem would be if you went in 7 minutes in on a walk and said, oh man, I got to start a walk. Well, it's just going to start it right then. Okay, that's one thing I think Apple
Yeah.
obviously needs to work on is that if you say I'm doing a walk, it obviously remembers because it
Yeah.
was remembering it in my
What would
case.
have been
It
nice
should
is,
remember and say,
yeah,
"Well, do you want to start at 7 minutes ago?" Because that's what it
yeah.
looks like you did.
It
Yeah,
looked like you started 7 minutes ago. Do you want me to start it from that
right,
point? Yes.
right. So the other thing that I wanted to suggest is this will not help with your working out downstairs. But in something like a walk, you could start to put an automation in place that says when I leave the door or leave, if I'm going this direction on my street, so you live in a particular way in which you're going to
Mhm.
drive one way, but maybe you're going to walk the other way. If I go this, direction, please remind me to, start a workout. And you could use automations to do some of that. It's not going to
Mhm.
help downstairs because
Yeah.
downstairs you're not going to a new location. It's not recognizing that you've done anything different. Um, but I think that's another potential option. If you're always working out at the same time, then you could set a reminder to cue at you that, if you're working out 7 a.m., then maybe there's a 7 a.m. Reminder that says start your workout, and that would maybe mean start your watch workout. So,
Mhm.
so I do think the problem, and this would be something Apple really does need to fix for people that love to track their workouts,
Mhm.
is the auto reminder is great. But if you remember before the auto reminder tells you, it needs to give you the option of adding those those extra steps, those
Yeah.
extra rows back in, because it obviously knows, because it's getting ready to remind you. It's been recognizing it. Or I also wish there was a way to make some of that happen earlier. I guess that's problematic though, right? If you said anytime I move my arm more than 10
Yeah.
10 times, it's going to be buzzing at you all the time. So
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think I'm up this. So it looks like I'm set right. I'm jumping the gun a little too much, and I should
Right.
let this just play out and let the reminders kick in.
If you forget, I mean, obviously the best thing would be probably down on your equipment, put sticky notes that say start your watch,
Yeah.
on each one,
Sure.
so that when you hop on, you remember. But if you don't remember and you're a minute in or so, I would just let it go. Now that won't help at all if you're doing, let's say, crunches, or you're doing something that the watch has no idea that anything different's happening. Your heart rate's not getting up high enough. Your
Yeah.
movement's not changing enough. But if it's rowing, it'll recognize it.
Well,
If it's
but then I
running, it'll
also go in
recognize it.
and get on my weight machine, and I'm just going through different iterations of different weights. I'm a
Right.
little concerned it's not going to pick up and remind for
It's
that.
not. I doubt it will, because
So I'm
the
still
repetition's
stuck with.
not enough,
I
right?
still stuck with having to remind myself to
Yep.
set a workout for that.
So you might have to go old school. Just put your post a big sticky note right as you walk downstairs that says start your watch.
Yeah, might as well just go back to caveman days.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Caveman days. My smartwatch is not automatically detecting every workout I do and logging it for me automatically. Yeah. So
yeah, you should just
first world
start
problems.
It's right. You have a smoke signal that comes up from the the fire that you start. Yeah, I got it.
All right.
Crazy.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that. I appreciate that. It was a good follow up. I'm glad you followed up on that. I've forgotten all about it, honestly.
Thank you.
Brian, we had a couple of news items I think we're covered too before we get into our main topic on accessibility features and options. You had one, I had one. So you want to go first?
Well, let me jump in. I'll go do mine. I don't want to take too much time with this, but for those who listened to last week's episode, we talked a little bit about last week was artificial intelligence, right? Or was that 2 weeks ago?
Yes.
I think it was last week. Yeah. So we just talked about, Chat GPT and DALL-E and some of these kind of artificial intelligence. So it was either last week or the week before that we talked about that. So I did want to bring up, I saw just actually this morning an article on another use for artificial intelligence. Alan, did you have that article?
Yep, I do.
Okay, go ahead and throw that up. So the article title is Google's new artificial intelligence solution for retail stores was a hit at NRF. And so what was interesting about this isn't earth-shattering. It's just when we start thinking of effective uses of things like artificial intelligence, this was, I thought, kind of a cool efficiency improvement. So what Google did here is notice that one issue that in supermarkets, when people are working in supermarkets trying to figure out when they need to restock a shelf, it's all been done manually in the past, right? You send somebody down the aisles, they look to see, oh, that's short, that's short, that's short. Mm-hmm. And then, they came up with an artificial intelligence engine, kind of a machine learning element that is able to use just in-store cameras that are already there, that are used there for security and all of that, to be able to triangulate a little bit about where in a particular aisle something looks to be low and create notifications, as opposed to, I need to go down there every few minutes to see if those last 2 bags of chips have been taken away. Right. So I thought this was kind of cool that, that one, it didn't require new technology for supermarkets if they already had security cameras that potentially had angles that could work for this. But also that this would be a way in which artificial intelligence seems to be helping with some efficiencies, right? Because we may look at it and go, okay, the person who works in the supermarket, they've got a job, right? It's not that big of a deal to go walk down the aisle. But if you're going down the aisle as a customer and seeing spots in which the shelves have not been restocked because they're busy, then you may benefit from the fact that they're going to get notifications on this and
Right.
And now what makes me a little concerned when, just what we talked about with AI, right, Alan, is there's the positive side and then there's the scary side. The scary side is when those same cameras are then potentially um, using that information to determine our behaviors, right? And so those same cameras are going to be able to detect how many people went by that particular part of the store, how many people, picked up that bag, and whether you particularly picked up that bag and put it back down again, which means maybe they need to give you a notification that says, don't you like, Lay's potato chips and, blah, blah, blah. Why don't you like them? And so, whether or not and I think we're already kind of there with some of our loyalty cards and the fact that people
Yeah.
know more data about us. But anyway,
So
positive and negative, right?
no,
Positive and
I
negative
think
about this.
that's a cool idea. I'm a little confused, and I'm not in the grocery store industry. If anybody listening or watching this is, maybe you can help clarify this for me. I guess I would have assumed that yes, AI would play a part in helping manage this stock on shelves, but I thought it would be by how many
Sales.
cans of potato
Mhm.
soup are on the counter, and then how many cans of potato soup have now been purchased during the course of a day. If you started with 12 and you had 8 sold, there's 4 left. When it gets down to a certain threshold, it notifies you and it knows that we need to restock the potato soup. I'm kind of surprised the direction that's being taken is to visually look at a counter and determine if it's empty or not.
Yeah. Well, and maybe the argument is you're assuming that the items that haven't been purchased yet are still in the spot that they're supposed to be in. That someone
Yeah.
hasn't moved them, that someone hasn't done,
Well,
so you're
sure.
making kind of assumption there. And I think what this is doing is saying, that's great. We know that we have 20 more bags of this. But I think we also have the issue that, and again, I haven't worked in a supermarket either, but I do know that supermarkets tend to have things in the back. And, for example, they have enough of those in the back to suggest that, we can refill this, but we're not going to take up all that space to put every bit of product we have of that one out there. So we need to know when we need to put that back down. You're saying, well, once people buy it, to go and restock it. I would
Well,
just
true.
argue
But
that maybe they don't always know
well, the
when it's
quantity could
off.
be being tracked in the warehouse side, not on what they place on the counter. So you may have 100 cans of soup total.
Right.
You're going to cart 12 of them out to the counter because that's what it needs to fill that spot. But the tracking is on the 100. So even though that 8 cans have sold and there should be 4 left on the counter, well, yeah, you don't know that because there's no tracking for how many are placed on the counter. So
Right.
that's where the visual cameras and
Yep.
the AI on that
Yep.
side is just looking to see, well, it looks like we're out on this. Notify the back room and they
Yeah.
need to stock more of the potato soup. I get it. And again,
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a truly magical, logical way that this helps the situation. I was a little surprised when I read it to think that that's how we're going to treat restocking grocery stores shelves. I thought there would have been a little
Well,
more
and like
specific way of doing it.
yeah. Well, like I said, I think there's probably another reason why they're doing this. This is kind of the harmless use of this information. But if you really
Right.
think about the fact that they're able to get information
Sure.
on shelf placement, on our use
Well,
of it, that's
I'm sure
additional
too,
information
like,
they're going to gain from it.
the whole you're walking down the aisle, where do people stop? Where do
Hmm.
people stop to look and grab things? And where do
Yep.
we get their attention? And so, yes, I agree. There's a lot more information you get from the cameras that can be watching this and monitoring
Yeah.
activity. But the overall message here is AI is kind of being put to use to say, all right, I'm going to do some thinking for the humans here and say, if I see this and I know that this means this, then I'm going to tell this group to do this.
Yep.
It's the whole I see it, so I'm going to translate that into an action that needs to be taken. So
Well,
it's
and if
good.
it's Google
Mhm.
and they're saying use the hardware you already have, then basically you're suggesting there's a way for you to gain this benefit without a whole lot of money output, right?
Yeah, true.
You're able to use this as an open source. And also, just really quick, Alan, you mentioned, can't you detect when people buy it that it needs to go? But I tell you what, the size of supermarkets these days, someone, 4 people go in on one side, pick up all the remaining bags of chips, and it's 30 minutes until they actually check out, and that's 30 minutes of empty
No,
empty space
that's true. You're right.
on the shelf
Good point.
before
Mhm.
they go and potentially lose a lot of customers.
Yeah.
So
Good.
anyway, I think, yeah, I don't
Interesting.
think this
Yeah.
is earth shattering, but I think it's kind of cool to see another use of AI that um, it really is just taking data and it's crunching it in a way that makes use of it. And I
Yeah.
think it's learning over time. Like, how do I recognize when that shelf is actually empty rather than a shadow there, rather than, something being pushed back in the back? How do I know that? So
Yeah.
it's kind of interesting.
Good.
All
All
right.
right.
What do you got?
So I wanted to bring up a news on this. Will be a really quick one. This is all still quote rumor, although it's a rumor with a lot of strong opinions behind it, from what I can tell. So you see this device in front of you. I've got up on the screen. Looks like an iPad, but what is supposedly under development right now, and again, this has not been officially released by Apple. This is just a lot of big Apple analysts are saying yes, they're working on this and it will be released next year. Is a Apple Home display. So much like the Amazon Show? Is that
Yep.
their product?
Yep. Mhm.
Facebook also has the Facebook whatever the name of their little screen is. Is
Right.
it? Yeah, I don't remember the name of it. But the idea being that it's a small screen that is meant for performing some very more focused functions. This being about your home.
Yep.
HomeKit, we've talked about HomeKit quite a bit. The home automation, we've spent many episodes talking about different aspects of home automation. And at one point, I think you and I kind of lamented the fact that there wasn't a small screen type of control that you could put like in front
Control
of
center.
in front of
Mhm.
your couch on the TV, or you could mount on the wall and be like, okay, I just want to turn on lights. I want to switch on these devices without having to go to your phone, without having to use your Siri voice, whatever it may be. So this is in the works right now. So this is that they call the smart home display. This is Mac Rumors that's reporting this, and they're saying it's basically like a little bit of a combination of what's the word they use? A low end iPad, but also with like a home pod kind of mixed together.
Mm.
So you
Yep.
imagine the
Yep.
idea that you have a device that is like the size of a very small iPad. Maybe has very, instead of it being a full iPad interface, it just has a very set limited operating system.
It's almost like a
And it,
dashboard,
yeah,
type interface, probably. Mhm.
having your HomeKit control, like all your home devices control, just like you see on your phone. Probably having a music
Yep.
capability, because it's already said that they do have intended this to have speakers built in to be a player of some sort. But also they said for FaceTime video conferencing to use as a
Hmm.
portal for that as well. So it would be a camera built into it as well. They're saying it would have a mount, like a magnetic or some sort of mount where you could actually put a plate up on the wall and actually mount this on the wall and be able to remove it from the wall whenever you want to use it portable. Um, I love it. I think it's
Yeah,
great.
I think
I
it's a
think
great
the
idea.
idea is great. If it's something that's relatively good on the cost side of things and not extraordinary. This is the kind of thing I would love to see peppered throughout a house at key
Mhm.
locations where you have a lot of things you want to be able to control. And I mean, look, I like using my voice, but sometimes I'd rather just go up and touch something or just have something very visual to work with. So
Yeah,
so I like this.
I
Now
love it.
that's all we know
Yep.
at this point. It is you know, analysts I trust are saying this is happening, but anything could change. Anything could happen along the way. But it is saying not till 2024 we would see this. So
Yeah. So just to fill in those gaps, Google has one, and now it's the Nest. I think the Nest,
I
Google and
nest.
Nest kind of went
Yeah.
together, so it's the Nest Smart Hub. Facebook has the Portal. I think is
Mhm.
probably what they were using.
Oh yeah,
Um,
Facebook portal. That's it.
and I tell you, the Amazon Show, which is the one that I have, I think I have the Show 8, maybe there was a number behind it, but I've had it for several years. It is. I have to say I chose it as a bit a long time ago, Alan.
Mhm.
We have it in our kitchen, and I use it every day.
Hmm.
every day. Every day when we go to cook, we'll say, play music,
Yeah.
and we'll say, show us a recipe. We'll say,
Yeah.
show us the score rather than read it to us. I want to see the
Mhm.
score of the game.
Mhm.
Use it every day, and
Yeah.
it's great. So I think that's a really, I think it's a smart move. I'd actually like to see if they, if they come up with a whole new interface, or whether maybe they tap into, like, I'd even see them tap into CarPlay and kind of make it that mentality where it's like, all right, just big
Yeah.
buttons, just get to one thing, do it,
Mhm.
and limit it so you can't go in and get lost in it. You don't want someone standing there at a screen on the wall to do lots of things. You just want them very quickly to access maybe where their dashboard is put them. So I
Yeah, I
think it's
also,
great. It's
no,
great.
I agree. I also wonder though if it's something that they're talking about the size of a small like mini size iPad in a way.
Yeah.
I just wonder. I mean, does it make sense for it? Yes, it can have that home OS kind of
Yep. Yep.
layer, which is more dashboard type of approach. Just have those 3, 4, or 5 functions that this device really excels in. But could it also be an iPad? Meaning, if I take it down off the wall or I take it off this pedestal and I hit a home button, I can actually go into a full iPad mode. So that way, at least, I get to see some value to it. It's probably running the same kind of processor on it, probably has the same capability to do it. Just wonder if that might really extend the value of it. Say, okay, yes, it's primarily meant for this, but it's got iPad OS running in the background, and if you wanted to open it up and use it as a tablet when you're not controlling things, you can. I'm just curious. That doesn't
I,
sound very
yeah.
Apple-ish. I know Apple would probably make this a
Well,
very single function device, but
yeah.
um,
Well, I
it's
would
curious.
say I would prefer they came out with the single function because I know it'd be cheaper. If they were to
You
stay at the
hope,
$200
yeah.
range, which is like these others are, and all it does is, home OS. But here's what I would love. You've got iPads already
Oh,
that maybe could
install the
download
home OS.
home
Yeah,
OS, and maybe
yeah.
even have a split
All right.
login. It's like, hey, home OS, now it can ship it. And that way, if you want to go buy the iPad, get the iPad and you can use it both ways.
Okay,
But
I
if you want
like
the
that
two
better.
hundred dollar, here
No,
you go. Right.
you're right. I like that
Yeah, that'd
better.
be great.
I
Yep.
just retrofitting current iPads to be able to play. If you've got one laying around and you maybe don't use it as much as you thought you would for day-to-day use, it's like, okay, well, I can just download the home OS
Yep.
on it and run that as a full-time app. And that's now what it is. It's the same as this home display.
I think I'd be
I like
slick.
that. I
Yep.
actually like that better. That's a good idea, Brian. Good call.
Thank
So
you. Thank you.
anyway, that's our news items.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm very curious about that device coming out next year. We'll see what happens with it. So
Well, shall we jump into
yeah, let's
kind of
do
the
it.
meat here? Right. Did you
Main
want to did you
topic.
want to take over again
Yeah,
and
yeah.
kind
Well,
of
I was
talk about
planning
yeah.
on. I was just going to
Yeah.
roll right over this, if that's okay. No, no, Brian. Why don't you talk us through? I gave
Okay.
a quick summary at the beginning, but you
Yes.
you, you dig us in now. So
Sure. So this was an episode that I had been wanting to do for a while um because I myself stumbled across some of these accessory features that I had no reason to look for initially, and I think I kind of stumbled in and realized there are some things in our accessibility um, features of our phones and our computer that aren't really just for those with limitations or disabilities or needing enhancements. They are actually can be very useful efficiencies within our devices. So I thought what we would do is take a look into the accessibility menus, specifically, as
okay.
we said, of iOS and Mac OS, which, for those that are on the latest version of both of those, they are somewhat similar. So we'll dive into a couple of those features, take a look at the menu, and then hopefully spark some ideas for people who, might actually have a need for these, because I've got a couple of these that I'm using now that it's not based on a limitation of mine. It's based on use case, right? That there's
Yeah.
actually some uses for these that might be only found if I was to dig into this menu. So let's talk about some accessibility. So maybe initially we ought to say we understand that there are all of these have been created for a particular need, for a particular limitation that someone has, so that everyone can use these devices and use these devices as they were intended. And I think there's some really great features in there and things that you and I, Alan, may not need at all. All right. But someone does. For example, contrast sensitivity. If you are someone that has a hard time distinguishing contrast or colorblind or, isn't able to distinguish some, bright portions of a screen, there are ways of limiting what you're seeing on your device so that it shows for you, changing everything to black and white, reversing the color orientations of your screen so that you can actually pick up on some of those subtleties. I mean, those are things that are useful. Having your device read to you, read the screen to you, and that sort of thing is for someone who's hearing, for visually impaired, getting a chance to engage with what's on the screen. So if you happen to have frustrations or limitations in the way that you can use your device, you should become very aware of the accessibility menu. But it shouldn't just stop there. So let's talk, Alan, about, would you want to maybe bring up the menu so we can just look at kind of the
Yeah.
categorization of
Do
some
you
of
want
this?
do you want to do the iOS or Mac? Does it matter to you which one?
How about we do iOS?
Okay, sure.
Yeah. Because I kind of feel like iOS is where some of the accessibility features really are useful and beneficial right away. And the reason I say that is because this is a device that we carry. This is the device that we are, using and moving around, and there are some ways in which you can use the accessibility features to enhance that. So everybody, if you're watching at home, you'll see that Alan's in the setting app of iOS, or the setting application. He's scrolling down, and there is an accessibility menu item. So when he clicks into the accessibility, and this is something that's actually changed over the last few years, Apple has really gotten good at kind of breaking it down as to what are the accessibility types, and each subsection here is a different accessibility category. So the first one is vision, the second one is physical and motor, and then there is hearing, and then what's the bottom one? General, right?
General.
Some general features. And each one of them has subcategories. So, Alan, I'm just going to throw out one or two that I found to be actually useful for myself, and
Sure.
and then you can kind of chime in on this as well. So
Okay.
one of the ones, and this was, and I would say this one is fairly niche in terms of its use. Okay, but let me show you one, Alan. If you were to go into the physical and motor, and let's see, right there, go into touch, okay, which is the first one. And then in the touch section, so there's a number of different things here that you may want to take advantage of. And whether or not you're going to wake up your phone when you touch it, whether or not you want to use the undo. I don't know if people have done this before, but if you're typing something and you want to undo what you just typed, shaking your phone should pop up the undo if you have this enabled. Now, the question would be, why is this an accessibility, right? Why isn't that just a cool feature? Well, it's an accessibility because if you're someone who tends to have tremors or shakes, or you are someone maybe Parkinson's, in which your phone is moving a lot, you don't want it constantly asking you, are you trying to undo? Are you trying to undo? Right? So you can turn that off if that's something that pops up that you don't want very often. But down at the bottom, the back tap section, and you have that turned off. So I don't know if you knew this, but there are ways in which you can assign a tap to the back of your phone.
To the back of my phone.
To back of your phone. So yeah, on the back side of your phone. So Alan, if you go to just go up to top to double tap and try flashlight.
Okay.
Okay, and then go back. All right. So now on the back side of yours, tap it twice. You got to do it pretty hard, I think. There you go.
There it goes.
Flashlight turns on, right? Double tap, flashlight turns off. Now, why would we need that? Because we obviously have that on our home screen, right, where you could touch. I tell you what, Alan, about a few weeks ago, I turned this on, and I have used it probably 3 times a week in the last couple of weeks. And mainly because I go out in the morning, it's been super cold, I'll have gloves on
Yeah.
and I want to use the flashlight. And it's incredibly, I don't want to take my gloves off. This is a great way of being able to use your flashlight without having your, take your gloves off, use the touch feature to be able to do that. So it's a little freaky, right? When you're
Well,
using it, I do have to sometimes tap it pretty hard or tap it in a way that makes sure that you're not supporting it the other way.
actually,
Yep.
yeah, for whatever reason, it doesn't like hard taps.
Oh, is that what it
It's
is? That what you're
softer
finding?
taps. Yeah,
Okay.
it's actually softer taps. That's weird.
Okay.
Yeah,
There we go.
and I have a magnet, a case with magnet kind of back case on it,
So
so
that could be, it could be
a
about
little
how good
thicker.
the case is doing and the connection of that. Yep.
But a lighter tap actually works. So yeah,
Oh, nice.
as many times as I use the flashlight, um, that's kind of nice, not having to go and always unlock the
Yep.
phone or find the little shortcut to do it. So,
Now the question would be, why isn't this automatically turned on for everybody? And it's because you may have your phone turned on a lot if you accidentally set it down,
yeah,
twice. And so there is a chance for error with this, in which you have to be careful about. But there's a number of different things. I don't know if you noticed that in the list, Alan. There's a number of things you could have these back taps assigned to. You could
um,
pull lots of different things to, have your camera up. To mute, if you were working on something, to have a bunch of shortcuts. You could actually create a shortcut that says, when I do this triple tap, and I would actually suggest you using the triple tap because there's probably less likely you accidentally do it.
sure.
Do a triple tap and then say, let's do this automation. So that's an example of something that if you find that that's a frustrating piece where, hey, maybe I have gloves on at certain
Mhm.
times of the day. Maybe I find that my fingers aren't, wanting to scroll through things and I want another accessibility option or a quick access option. That's an example of one. So
Yeah, good.
um, let me see. Another one that maybe it's in the same menu. If you'll go back to, this is under it's under the physical motor, but it's, let's see. It's under audio. Let's see. So where did I have this one?
Audio visual.
No, I'm sorry. It's you were in the correct spot. I'm just trying to remember where it is under the section. I think maybe it's in the try voice control. Let's see. Is that the one? Nope. Go back. Sorry. Not. So what I'm looking for is the call audio routing that's in there, Alan. I believe that's in maybe it's in control nearby devices. That may be where it is. There you go.
It's
The
under
routing.
call audio routing. It's under
There
touch.
we go. Okay. So here's kind of a nice one. And actually, I understand where the accessibility may come in, but this is something that I found that some people may want to use and get into anyway, this is if you're on a call, where do you want that call to be routed? And what you have it on is automatic, which means it's going to make the best guess. If you put headphones in, it's going to assume that maybe you're wanting to switch to headphones. If you take them out, you want to do this. But if you find that that's going wrong sometimes, and I actually have found that for me, it'll switch sometimes to things I don't want to, like it automatically goes to my car, even if I have my headphones in while I'm driving. And sometimes if I want to make a call, I'll put my headphones in and make it sound better, but then my car takes over. So in here, you can actually tell it, what do I want the default to be? And for me, I have Bluetooth headset that says if I am wearing a Bluetooth headset, I want the calls to go to that. I always want the calls to go to that, right? And then it knows that if you don't have a Bluetooth headset on, it's going to go to kind of the next best thing. So, I think there's another thing that could be very useful.
Yeah, you're setting a default. Like I want this to be the default all the time. If it's not available, it's still going to go to another
It's still
option
going
it's
to,
got,
yep,
but it's always going to try this option first and try to route
right.
the calls through there whenever it can.
And think about someone who does this, that maybe someone has hearing aids in which they're using as Bluetooth speakers, but yet they also want an external speaker to be for their phone calls. So it's like, don't go to my Bluetooth headset, go to this external speaker all the time because I need to be able to hear it, or I need all my calls to be announced that way. So I think that's kind of another piece that you may not recognize as inaccessibility. I may have thought that would have been under headphones, right? but looking at accessibility gives you an option of change that. So.
Mm-hmm.
So as you see, there are a number of other things here: haptic touch, being able to determine whether or not you're getting some response from your touch. When you touch your device, do you want it to kind of do a little vibration to let you know that the touch has been made or the click has been made? That's an effective thing. It's already there, but you can determine how fast you need to touch something in order to double click it. And that means that, certain people that may have a sensitivity issue or a motor control issue would not have been able to do the double touch in quick enough for it to recognize what's happening. So
Yeah, sure.
there's a number of things there. Alan, did you have some that you came across as you were looking?
Yeah, I was going to mention a couple as well. So let me see if I can figure out where they were. So motion, there's
Yep.
some items under emotion on accessibility. And what this has to do is how things play out or appear on your screen. And because some of the motion that's kind of by default on the phone, I'm talking like animations, like when you open an app and it kind of zooms out, and maybe if you close an app, it zooms back in. Some of those things can be a little tough for some people to process, and so they give options for people to reduce motion, meaning
Right.
I just don't want as much flying around on the interface. I don't need all the whiz bang stuff going on. I actually have this turned on mine because I actually kind of like not having all that. I wonder if it helps battery life a little bit. It's one reason I did it too. I just thought there's more things the phone's trying to do using
Yep.
graphics and animation, which I don't need it to do. So I've actually got reduce motion turned on, and that is now reducing some of those user interface animation elements. But also, how people can send the little message effects on
Mhm.
latest versions of messages, like you got fireworks that go off in the background, or you got some other little fancy animation for a celebratory thing. That itself can also be sometimes difficult for people with impairments to process or to work with, or to be able to see comfortably, to still see the text and the messages on
Right.
there. So you can't turn off the auto playing message effects, which means I don't want to see those. I mean, you still have a button that'll allow you to go full screen and see them the way they're meant to. But natively, when you're reading the messages, they don't just happen automatically. You have to kind of go in and tell them you do want to see them, and you could see it full screen by your selection. To me, I just like that a lot. I just like knowing that you can turn those things off, because it's just a matter.
Yep.
Sometimes you want to be able to customize your phone experience to what works best for you. This is giving you some of those options that you may not realize you have, but they're also very, very helpful options for people that do need that consideration for sure.
Yep. Yep.
And then of course, anything being spoken to you on the phone, I think is really great. And this is one area where I think the iOS and Mac OS really shine as they continue to keep improving the ability to have things read to you from your computer screen. So for example, speaking the selection, if you turn that on, all that means is that, how you can select text on a phone by kind of pressing and holding and double clicking on text. And it's not doing it here in the settings app, but I'll hop over in a second to a notes app and show. But now this means that if I highlight some text on my screen, it will actually read that to me. So again, visually impairment, it helps with that. Maybe just difficulty. I mean, sometimes when I'm not reading, don't have my contacts in, or I'm not using my readers, I have a hard time reading the text on my screen. So if I just need it to be read to me, this is the way you would do it. So let's see if I can go in real quick and do that on a text, on a notes. And I'll do a new one. And if I just say test message, and then I go in and select it.
Yep. Now you go to the right up there. Yep. And you'll see speak. Yep.
And of course, I don't have my headphones plugged into my phone and my volume's down, so I'm not hearing it, but it is playing it. I know that for a fact. I can see that. So again, I would just select it. And now if I've got that chosen, anything I select, I have the option of letting it speak it and play it for me, which is great. So,
Yep.
I
And
think that's
Alan,
really good.
back on that same thing, even the speak screen, which I did not realize how that feature was working, but it's really slick. If you turn on the speak screen, then what you do is anytime you can do that right here, you could just take two fingers and slide from the top, and
Ah,
you'll see that it's just going to start speaking your everything that's
yeah.
on the screen. So, and
Hmm.
the last one you did, I think is great for if you really have a section of notes that your eyes are getting tired, you want it to read.
Hmm.
But if someone really has a visual impairment, that's really hard to do, right? Select, go
True.
menu over.
Yeah.
But if you all you have to do is slide your two fingers down, and it's going to start reading what's on the screen. Oh, that's fantastic,
That's
right?
great. Well, and
Yeah,
even
I
to go
love it.
one further, you can turn on to say you want to highlight the content that it's reading. So as it's reading it and as it's being spoken, it's actually highlighting it as it goes along.
Hmm.
So if you needed to kind of follow along with it to see it, you could also do that
Try
as
that.
well.
What does
So
that do, Ellen? Go to the slide down from the top and see what the two finger.
yeah.
Oh,
Whoops.
I guess you got to do the speak screen. Yeah, so you got to put that back
Oh
on.
yeah.
Oh yeah, so it's highlighting.
Uh-huh.
It's
I see it
highlighting.
highlighting the text. It's kind
Hmm.
of hard to see there on the, but it
No, but
is
that's good.
highlighting the text as it's reading. It's going to hop down to speech controller there now,
Yep.
highlight content. So you can see it's highlighting it as it goes along.
Yeah,
So that's
that's
also
great.
really nice. Yeah.
Hmm.
So some
Very
great little
slick.
options on having things read. And we're going to flip over to the Mac in a second to show the desktop interface because it has many of the similar features. A couple of things I wanted to show there were a little different as well.
Yep.
But yeah, you just start getting into some of these accessibility options, and again, things I would not have just inherently gone to when I started up my phone for the first time. But you start to really get in here and say, man, these are some things that are really actually very, very helpful. You
Hmm.
already talked about the touch, um, the side button, even little things like how quickly do you want to be able to click, double click your sidebar, your side button, like when you have to buy something, and sometimes it
Yep.
requires you to do the double press. I mess that up a lot. I'm either not pressing fast enough or something. So you can really actually go in and start customizing how I want that click speed to happen. Um, which is really, again, all really nice options.
Yep.
Um,
There's the keyboards has a nice actually, yeah, there you go at the top, right? You could actually, if you're someone who is using your phone a lot but also wants to type on an external keyboard, then you could tell it that you want to be able to use an external keyboard in order to maybe again, you don't have the motor control capabilities for small finger typing. This could be something that would allow you to be able to use an external keyboard on
mhm.
your iPhone, which is kind of slick.
Yeah, nice.
um, there's the require attention. This is the one that's probably, it'd be good to talk about the ones that are different than Mac OS, but face attention, face ID and attention is
Mhm,
kind of helpful. And now this
mhm,
one's kind of good because, as most of us know, that are using an iPhone that requires Face ID, where you got to be looking at, or it's got to see your face in order to open up. There may be situations in which you feel as though maybe you're around a lot of people, and if I were to be on a train and Alan, I would have come up and take your phone out of your pocket without you knowing it, and you're reading, and I could, hold the phone just over to the side so that it points towards your face while you're not looking, it would still open up your phone.
mhm,
Well, if you tell it you want to require attention, what that means is not only do I need it to show your face, but the eyes need to be looking towards
hmm,
the screen in order to open up. So that would be something that may not necessarily just be an accessibility thing. That may be a use case thing. Where are you? Are you comfortable and safe with your phone? As other people holding your phone, or other people have access to your phone? So so there's a number of things that I would strongly encourage people to go through each one of these, see what they do, see if any of that makes sense for you. The Zoom, Ellen, have you tried the Zoom on this one?
yeah.
Yep.
So again, which one is it?
Is it three tap, the three finger tap?
All right. And it's not showing it on the screen
Oh,
for you
okay.
guys. I'm actually zooming in and out. So I'm going to
Oh,
show that
you're
on the
seeing it.
Mac here in a second,
Okay.
the idea of that.
Okay.
But the idea is that you can actually have text that you're kind of focused on, tap it, and it zooms it out, and you see it in much bigger. Then you can zoom back in again
Yep.
to go back to normal
And
view.
let me just clarify. So most people are going to say, "Well, don't you do the pinch zoom thing?" But this is talking about anything on your screen. So, you can't
Gotcha.
use pinch zoom when you're on a menu.
There we go.
Oh, there we go. Yep.
There's actually an option, if you can see down here, show while
Oh, while
mirroring.
mirroring. Perfect.
So I turn that on, and now, yes, if I triple tap on
Yeah.
there, you can see I
And from there, Alan, can
zooming
you
it out.
move by scrolling your fingers?
Yep.
All three
Three
or
fingers.
two? Yep.
Yep. I can scroll around and then triple tap again with three fingers,
And jump
and
back
it will
out.
zoom me back out. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, so I
But
think it's yeah, there's some people that I think could potentially get used to that. There I don't know about you, but there are certain menus that I find even on applications or something that are just really small. Even though I have the
mm,
font turned up to where I like it normally, there are times I wish I could zoom in on even a menu, not just a web page or an image. So that's one way you can do that. But
so I'm going to,
you want
Brian,
to flip
let
over?
me flip over to the Mac just for a second.
Yeah.
And I'm going to share a screen, which means it's going to be a little small to see the settings here. But there's a couple things I want to show you that would extend beyond that settings window. So I want to show that. Many of the things you mentioned and some others from the iOS version are here on the Mac system settings as well. I'm in the accessibility tab, just like I was on iOS. Voicing over, turn on voiceover means that it's going to speak any of the text on the screen, on the computer screen, anytime. So again, if you would, just ever have a time where you just would like to have some things read to you, you can sit back a little bit and maybe not worry about trying to read along with things or a news article. You can actually choose the voiceover, and it will read what's on the screen for you, voice wise. And but the ones I really want, here's a couple I found to be the most interesting. Pointer control. So this is the cursor, the little arrow cursor I'm moving around the screen. You can actually, oh, where is it? It's under the cursor. I thought it was under that cursor. Where did it go? I was just doing it 1 second ago. We'll get to that in a second. We'll do the sounds, but pointer control. It was basically I could control the cursor, the size of the cursor, and the outline of the cursor. And where was that?
Oh, that's got to be visual, right? That's got to be under maybe the display.
Um, yes, there we go. Good call.
Mhm.
Okay. So under display in the vision section, your mouse cursor, this is actually something I've used quite a bit before. You can change the size of your cursor. So as you can see, my mouse cursor is now larger on the screen. There's plenty of times I have a hard time finding that mouse cursor on a very busy screen. So this is nice to be able to control the size. But what I really love is you can control the outline color. So if I wanted the outline color to be like a yellow, let's see here. Oh, my little color palette is popped up. Sorry. There it is.
Yep.
There's the yellow. Now you can see the
There we
outline
go.
of my cursor is a yellow, which actually kind of makes it stand out a lot more. It makes it a little easier to follow. Now I can actually even change the color fill on the inside to make it a completely different color.
Hmm.
I'm not going to do that. I'm going to reset those colors, but you get the idea of what you can start to change and work with on that.
Yeah,
To get
but
your cursor
you may
to be a
find,
little
for
bit different.
example, that your background image that you love is a lot of black. Maybe it's black
Yeah.
and white, or very dark, and maybe you want to switch that to your pointer to be white instead of black, and you could invert both of those colors, so you have those options. Alan, here's something I want to know, because I had not thought about the size of the mouse before. I have changed that in the past. but I don't tend to keep it because I don't need it all the time. But what I would love would be, could you set up either an automation or some sort of feature that says anytime I connect to a larger screen,
Mhm.
so when I go and teach, I have my projected information up there, and I find it so hard to see on the projected screen where my mouse is.
Yeah.
Partly because the lighting in there is not very good. It's
Mhm.
not a great screen. It's what I'd love is to say anytime I put connect into this projector, I want you to make my mouse 3 times as big, right?
Yeah.
And I want that to be able to stand out. I'd assume that would be some form of automation. If this happens, then do this. It'd take a little work,
If
but
something
to
was
know that it's
connected
there,
or
it can
or
certainly happen, right?
yeah, either something's connected to your computer or a certain app is opened up and you want to change
Yep.
the cursor with that. Yeah, you can certainly do
Yep.
that, I'm sure. Um, a lot of other things on the display side under vision as well, wanted to kind of show. So it's got also the same reduce motion, which again
Hmm.
kind of just decreases some of those little window animations and effects that maybe you just kind of don't need to see or want to save any wear and tear on your computer to do. But also menu bar size, I can't do it live because it does require me to log out and log back in. But you can actually change the size of your menu bar, which is across the top of the screen, to make it a larger version, if you need to see it. And you even can get down to controlling things like the contrast on your display. So I'm going to show it just for a little bit here to get an idea. I can increase the contrast. Now, granted, this is too much, but
Hmm.
you start to get the idea of that you can really have some very finite control with that to make things look and appear just how best suits you. But again, if you also have some impairments in any way, these are little things that could help you in some of those areas. By default, the shake your mouse pointer to locate it is on, and that's kind of a feature they touted with a recent
Yeah.
software version. If I shake my mouse violently, you see it grows in size. I may not like that, so I can turn it off. That's also in the accessibilities option under display. So um, now can I tell you my favorite? Because Brian, I showed you this before we even went live, when I had no idea it existed. But again, just digging through these accessibility options, you start to find all these. On the audio side, um, one thing that's neat is if you want, you have alert sounds that can happen on your computer, like when a dialog box pops up and you need to, like, it gives you a little bing or whatever sound you have set up as your system sound. You could also have it to where it flashes the screen when that alert sound sounds. Now, just think about it.
Hmm.
If you have your volume down on your computer a lot, or maybe you're listening on headphones to something else and you're working, but you still want to be notified when there is a dialog box or something that is giving you an alert sound to pay attention to. Now your screen will flash uh, when the alert sound occurs. Which again, you turn that on or off, but that could be very helpful for some people when they're
Yep.
using this. But my favorite is the background sound. So believe it or not, you can actually turn on to have background sound going on your computer, acting as almost like a white noise, kind of to try to help drown out what they say is any other unwanted environmental noise. And they say it also can help a little bit with focus or calming or being more restful when you're working. So you can actually turn this on. I've got it on right now. I know you're probably not hearing it because it doesn't come through my microphone, but I am currently listening to the ocean, and the ocean is playing in my background. I can control the volume of that background noise, and it will stay on. Now, if I leave this on the whole time I'm working, I can tell it to turn off those sounds when my Mac is not in use, meaning when I go to sleep, or it goes into the lock screen to go and turn off the sound. But I can not only control the volume, but I can also control what type of background sound. There's dark noise, bright noise, and balanced noise, which are just going to be some of those filling the air with some noise that's just you're kind of used to with noise machines. I've got rain. I've got a stream, which I've said I'm not going to use unless I really need to go to the bathroom within a short amount of time, because it will definitely get you geared up that way.
Get things moving.
Yeah, it does. So, if I have the rain on right now I'm listening in the background of my headphones, I'm hearing just rain, and it's kind of nice. I mean,
That's
great. I
that's
listen
pretty
to music
slick.
when I'm working on my computer most of the time, but if I really just needed to kind of get to a little bit more calming state, but I also didn't want to be distracted by a lot of just
Yep.
random noises around me. This is totally the kind of thing I would turn on and have on when I'm working. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
No, it's pretty slick. Yeah, there's a lot of really potentially helpful things here. I mean, Alan, you showed the flashing of the screen, and that's been available for the mobile phone for a while, right? The iPhone, you can tell it that the flash on the back of your phone,
Yeah.
you can have it blink at you if the phone's ringing or if you have a message,
Hmm.
which makes sense. I mean, I use vibration, but imagine if you're someone who doesn't really feel vibration very well,
Hmm.
or maybe you don't have a watch, so you're not getting vibration that way, and you do want to be notified, but you're not hearing impaired. You can't necessarily hear it, and you don't want to keep it on and distract other people that way. So there is a number of different ways that you can utilize this. Um, yeah, Zoom. Show the Zoom. I think Zoom is pretty slick.
Well, the hover text, let me go back and I'm going to have to share my whole window again to make sure people can see this. But um, yeah, hover text was something I was playing with. So zooming, you can do your zooming here, just like we were showing on the phone, where you can kind of zoom into certain places on your screen or zoom out. But the hover text was really cool in that if you turn on hover text, all you have to do on your keyboard is hold down the command button, which is the little clover leaf looking symbol on your Mac. And as you hold it down, now any text I roll over just with my mouse pops up to really large font and size. And you can go in and modify that font and size, I understand.
Hmm.
But you may not think initially how this could be useful, but just imagine if you're having to show somebody over a Zoom call or something on your screen, or you're wanting to show them how something works or how to do something, and you really want to make sure you call attention to the actual text of buttons or things on the screen for them to see. This is what allows you to do it. So again, I'm just holding down my command key and I'm just moving my cursor. I'm not having to click anything. I am just moving my cursor over words, and it is popping that word up in much, much larger font, easy to see. So I love that. I'm actually going to leave that
That's
on because I
great.
can actually find
Yep.
myself using it a lot more regularly. And then there's also the zooming itself within the window. So if I wanted to zoom into a part of my screen, but yet I'd like to do it in kind of a split screen format. So now I can, let's see, which one do I do?
So do you have a trackpad? Yeah.
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 So I've got it set to do double tap with the 3 fingers once again.
Yep.
And when I do that, you can see what it does. I have now zoomed in on the top half into a zoomed layout, a zoom view, while my normal view is down below. And I can still move around in my bottom view. And then I can also move my cursor up to the top view and zoom and move around in just the zoomed part up there. So it's really pretty
I
cool.
could see, if you were an artist, someone who, is find yourself zooming in a lot on images as you're looking at things or details on a brochure that you're creating. I mean, most of those you can pinch and zoom, you can end up looking at that document, but having a very quick, well, I mean, I've actually found that I've kept this on, Alan. I have the three tap because it's so quick, right? 3 taps and I am zoomed in on what I'm looking at. So, if I have photographs or something and I just want to double check, is that an extra dot there? Is there something really small? It gives me an easy way to do it rather than worrying about, pinching and zooming and all of that. So yeah, I think both of these, I think are incredibly helpful things for people that find themselves struggling to see some small text on the screen or small items. Yeah.
Well, and so many times, Brian, yes, absolutely. That's the number one reason for it. But there's times too where I'm again on a Zoom call and I'm needing to show something. And just sometimes the computer screen when I'm showing somebody on Zoom is just not going to be big enough for them to really read text or see things. But if I know I can zoom in and pop out part of it, it's so much easier for people I'm talking to remotely to see what I'm referring to without me having to go and change all my desktop monitor settings to get it bigger for them to see.
Yeah.
This is just a nice, simple way to do it. So, yeah.
And Alan, what about even tech support, right? You're showing someone on a Zoom call hey, mom and dad, this is how I want you to do it. Because you're exactly right. What if they're seeing the Zoom call on their phone,
Oh,
right? They're not going
yeah.
to be able to see what's going on.
No. Like,
So
even
therefore
this
you can
window
zoom
I've
in
got
on what's
pulled up
there.
right now. I mean,
Yep.
this is
You
this
can't
is
see
kinda
that.
hard to see for anybody. I think, just looking at the text on here too. But if this was on a Zoom call and I'm trying to show somebody how to do something, I would much rather just be able to triple tap
Or a
on the screen
three
and like,
finger
okay,
double tap, right? Yep.
what's that?
3-finger double tap.
Right, I'm sorry.
Yep.
3
Yep.
finger double tap. I gotta make sure I say that right.
And you're
There's no.
using so there's the picture in picture, there's the
Yeah, this is
screen,
the picture
there's
in picture
the
version of it. Yeah.
so I'm personally using the full screen, which means
Mhm.
that any point in time I can just do the, you know, 3 tap and it just zooms the entire screen gets zoomed in beyond that. So,
See, and here's now with the picture in picture, I
oh,
can actually
nice.
control the
Okay.
size of it. So I went in and said, I want to change the size and location. So let's say if I want the picture in picture to always be up here. Okay. So now if I go and do that zoom, it's got it in that size, but I can actually move it around while I'm in it.
Hmm.
But
Yeah,
I've got
that's
it the
great.
size I want. So if I just want like a certain call out box like this.
I mean, so this is basically for someone who normally would pull a magnifying glass out and want to look
Mhm.
around, right? That's exactly what you've just created digitally, which I think is incredibly slick.
Yeah.
So I think it's great.
Some really good stuff. And again, I mean, we've gone through like maybe a third, if
Hmm.
even that, maybe even a quarter of what's available on there. But I do think this is a kind of it's a fun exercise to do, is to go through that accessibility option to say, okay, do any of these help my experience with my computing device? Um, and it may not be things that you need to have on all the time. It may be things that you just know are available to you if you ever find yourself in a need for them. Some of them, though, may be things that you say, what, this is me permanently. I need this. I need this all the time. This is a helpful way for me to be more productive, or to be able to use my screen's better effect, or whatever it may be. So, um, some great stuff. But
Yep.
going back to the main reason these exist, of course, it is for those that do have those, uh, disabilities, or having limitations in what they can do in any way, shape, or form, physically, visually, mentally. These are all meant to help with those aspects and to make sure everybody has a really great, positive computing experience. But don't let that make you think that these aren't some things that could not be also useful to you, anybody else as well, um, with or without those impairments. So,
Yep.
yeah,
Alan, can I show you one more thing? And it's back
sure,
over on the iOS. Would you mind just flipping back to your iOS so you
sure.
have that up?
I think so. Let's see. I
And if
think
not,
I
I have
brought.
mine. I can share, but
Yeah, I've got it.
okay. So this I think is a good one to end on because it kind of shows you the granularity of what you can actually do here. So Alan's got the settings back up on iOS. Alan, if you'll scroll to the very bottom, to the very last one, it's per
Mm.
app settings.
Here we go.
So what's incredibly cool here is that it allows you to click and say add an app, and you can choose any of your apps in which you think that app you need a particular accessibility change. So for example, if you have an app that you use all the time and maybe the font in that app is super small,
Yeah.
you
Oh,
want
wow.
things larger text only in that app. So when you open that app, you want the larger text, but not everything else. So you can actually granularity of this change can actually be really, really slick. So yeah, so Alan's putting on Amazon app, he's
Mhm.
doing larger text, which means
Yep.
that if he now goes to Amazon, I don't know if you want to try that. Go back to
Okay.
your yeah,
Hopefully there's nothing embarrassing on my
yeah.
shopping
Let's not
history to
take
show.
a look at your
But yeah,
history.
the text is definitely bigger.
Yep. So now the
Um,
text in this app is bigger, but the text throughout the rest of the phone was not. So, like I
yeah.
said, if you have certain apps where you're like, oh, I hate using this app because maybe the colors are off and you want to make that one monotone in color, or you want to make, change the app to have the brightness changed, or you want that one to always be in dark mode, you can actually make just granularity. Yeah, there you go.
Here's my
Huge
big
text,
text.
right?
Yep.
So this is where I think that you may believe like, oh, I don't want to change this for my full system because, it makes everything look too big or it makes
Mhm.
everything change the way I don't want. But there's one app that really frustrates me. this is a way of changing some of those things in that. And it's
Wow. Okay.
incredibly slick. So
That's a new one on me. I guess I never
yeah,
got down to the bottom, that per app settings, but that is very nice. Very,
yep,
very
yep,
cool.
it's great. And even in accessibilities where you can change the voice of your person who's reading, you can change it
Mhm.
to the Australian accent. You can change it to the South African accent. You can change all sorts of things. I don't think this one. Oh, there it is. Yep. So you can go in and change what the voices are. Alan, there was one I came across last night. Let's see. I don't actually think it's in this particular menu. I think there's another place for it, but there's actually other places where you can make it a digitized kind of, there's one that's a whisper. So I can say, if I'm asking it to speak, it whispers it. And I'm trying to remember where that was.
Oh, and
I
by the way,
stumbled on a lot of these.
on iOS, background sounds are there as well.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah. So you can have the background sounds on your phone as well as on your computer, which is nice. See,
Yeah. So Alan,
different languages.
there's a
Where were
ton
the
of stuff.
languages?
Let's see. Where was this? It was where it was going to read. So what would that be? That'd be the
Spoken
vision
content
spoken content. Let's see.
or voiceover.
Or audio descriptions, one or the other.
Mm.
Nope. Actually, go back to audio descriptions.
Here, is it this it?
Oh, maybe the voice. Yep. What's the voice do? Oh, there we go. Yeah. And if you keep
Novelty.
scrolling,
Yeah.
there's the novelty ones, right? So go down to
Mhm.
whisper.
There's the whisper.
Now, of course,
one,
it won't come up here, but you can play each one of them and it'll do a little example like, "Hi, I'm in my phone right now," So there's some cool ways in which if you want to change it up a little bit about how it's speaking to you. And again, this could be something that many people might use if you use Siri a lot and you want to change Siri's voice so that it's a little different. You can go and change the accent of that. So
It's very cool.
I think it's fun. Yeah, there's a
Yeah.
lot of potentially useful things
A
here.
lot of features. I think a lot to keep us busy, kind of going through. It's something I want to try to every few months kind of hop in and just see if there's anything that would be helpful for me, anything that would be make the computing experience a little more enjoyable. Certainly
Well,
try to do that.
especially, I mean, with your age, Alan, every few
Yeah.
months is probably a good thing, right? Because there's going to be another accessibility need
Yeah.
popping up every so often.
Well, and probably in a few months, I would have forgot that I did it a few months ago. So I make sure I do it again. It'd be like a whole new experience for me. So
Right.
yeah. Very, very
Good.
true. Unfortunately, I'm looking at some of these accessibility things and saying, yeah, I actually probably might want to look at bigger font size
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
a little more embellishments to help me out as I move along. So, all right, this is really cool. So the end message for everybody is there's some really could be valuable, helpful things in the accessibilities options on both your desktop or your phone or tablet device. We encourage you to go through and explore and see what's in there. And especially if you're doing some things that may be helping train somebody else or teaching somebody else how to use the computer. A lot of these things do kind of help that experience where you can zoom in or highlight things or be able to show things a lot easier to people you're sharing with. So we encourage you to take a look at these accessibility options, see where there may be something of benefit to you. So
It's great.
great. That's good. Thanks, Brian. I appreciate you bringing up the topic. I think it's good.
I'm happy we did it. Yep.
Yeah. Well,
All right.
I think let's see. We hit a couple news items. You solved my fitness issue, my workout issue, and we talked
Your
about
fitness
accessibility
issue.
options.
You're going to have to explain, Alan. You're going to have to clarify your fitness issue. It sounded like there was a lot of fitness issues. So you're talking specifically about trying to start your watch
Right.
at the appropriate time.
Very
Yes,
specifically
okay.
that's the only fitness issue at the moment, but I'm sure there will be more. So yeah, an overall good conversation there. So Brian, if anybody is interested in talking with us more about the accessibility options we explored, or maybe there's a couple that people are finding that extremely helpful to them, and we want to kind of highlight those for others as well, or just general talk about anything tech, home, family, personal technology, the topics we might dig into in the future, any of that, what should they do?
Yeah, send us an email at info at themesh.tv. So that's info at themesh.tv. as Alan said, maybe you have some accessibility features that we didn't cover today that you find extremely useful. Or if you have some knowledge of the accessibility features in Android phones that you'd like us to share, another way of getting to those, we'd love to be able to share that for you. You can also go to our website,
Hold on.
Alan,
I got it. Sorry.
brothers-in-tech.com. The www dot, sorry, the dot and the dash are getting me today. So brothers-in-tech.com.
All right. Well, that'll wrap us up for today. Thanks everybody for watching and or listening. And we will be back again probably next week with some more tech discussion, family, home, personal technology, helping you make computer life easier for yourself. Boy, that didn't really come out right at all.
No,
That I don't like the way
you want
it
to try
sounded.
that again? You need some
Well, and give me a
accessibility
take
help
two.
here, or
Take two. I need a chat GDP or GPT to write my
Yep.
closing for me. So helping you. Nope, I don't like that either. Hold on.
Do you
We're
want to do
here
an
to
Edgar Allan Poe or
we're
no?
here
Okay.
to help you. That's good.
Really? Was that good?
No, it's horrible. I don't know. I'm running out of steam tonight here, Brian.
Yeah.
Look, my Carolina Tar
Help
Heels were
me
playing in the
help you.
background.
Help
My
me help
Tar
you.
Heels were playing in the back, and they just lost like 30 seconds ago. And I'm
Oh
kind of
man,
now
I'm
frustrated
really
by it.
upset
So,
about that. Yeah,
gosh,
I'm disappointed too.
others in -in-tech.com. All right. Take care, everyone. That's it. I'm not closing this out. We're just going to do this. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.